Hi, I'm Dr. Vivian Chan, the CEO of Capital Catalyst. So what we do is to make sure that we can provide board as a service to fast-growing startups. So I am an exit-focused board member by day, and I actually focus on deep tech and health tech entrepreneurs, predominantly turning scientists into exited founders. So my background is that I was in venture capital, investing in life science spin-offs. And then I came over to do a PhD at Cambridge, and then I built two businesses at the back of that. The first one being a PhD network consultancy, and the second one summarizing cutting-edge research into bite-sized summaries. And then the second one ended up also going into the US. And during that time, my investor network started to ask me if I could help them with their deep tech and health tech portfolio companies. And so when I started speaking to hundreds and hundreds of scientific CEOs, I started realizing that they were experiencing the same problems and the same challenges that I personally had gone through for the last 12 years as a CEO. That's when it also hit me that the executive layer of a lot of startups, like fractional COOs, fractional CMOs, and fractional legal consoles, were really adapting to startup pace and startup learning feedback. However, the most transformative and strategic layer, the non-exec layer, was not disrupted. It was not actually changed to adapt for startup and for the entrepreneurs that are needed. So that's actually what Board as a Service does. We provide cutting-edge, like transformational board-level strategy at founder's pace, and I specifically focus on exit. So I really want to be improving exit literacy for a lot of founders so that they're actually thinking about what exit is most aligned to their mission and vision from day one, so that they're building assets and values that are also going to attract the right kind of buyers, or if it is going to list on an IPO, that they've got that intention of building the right exit story. Otherwise, they might end up being actually bought out by companies that they didn't really want, burnt out, or they ended up getting really diluted down the cap table. So I've got all those experiences, and that's also why I'm so passionate in making sure that breakthrough science can actually turn into commercial success stories. Yeah, so we spoke really on the macro level on how deep tech and health tech is quite different to software businesses, because we have to actually think about not just the market hurdles, but also technology hurdles and the regulatory hurdles. And so therefore, the complexity of the team early days is different. It also means that it requires a lot more patient capital and infrastructure investments early on. It takes about 2 or 3 times longer for deep tech and health tech companies to reach product market fit or Series A. And it takes 5 times more capital to actually get there. And so, but if you think about it, yes, it's high risk initially, but the output, if they get there, is high rewards. And if you start looking in terms of the medium company valuations of these transformative companies, they're all in the billions. So I also talked a little bit on the macroeconomics in terms of where exits lie. So predominantly still has been M&A. So in the healthcare scene, is about 70% is in M&A. And that's reflected globally, not just in the UK. Deep tech is more like 90% M&A right now, where the last 5 to 10% is an IPO. There is 2 healthcare companies that IPO'd in the US this year, but what we're also starting to see more of is actually PE buyouts in healthcare. More consolidation within that market. You're starting to also see that interest within deep tech now, that you've got defense, you've got space tech, and climate tech as well. So these are kind of the macro themes that I also talked about, alongside the practical exit literacy that is really required, I think, for a lot of the founders and entrepreneurs within the UK to really unlock a lot of that success, the commercial value, because UK actually by far is still the global leader when it comes to research output per capita. However, for example, it's still publishing 57% more research papers in the US and 6 times more than China. But we have not necessarily cracked the code for commercialization. And it's not just the capital, it's also being able to be accessible to exited, scaled founders who have built deep tech and health tech businesses to cycle through and bring back and be aligned with exit strategies. be intentional. Think about what your exit strategy is from day one. And there is no right or wrong answer, and the journey and the startup journey will change. So you don't necessarily have to stick by it, but it's always good to give your company a destination. Otherwise, you end up going to actually have a team that's going to get lost along the way. You might be selling them 3 different exit options, and that's actually what I did in the second company. Initially, I had 3 different exit options when I was pitching to VCs, and each of them were bought on for slightly different reasons. One was interested in the exit option A, and the other was option B. And that as the company started growing, we started to getting clearer and clearer towards one path. Then I spent more time as a CEO managing investor relations, rather than actually running the business. So it is very intentional that we need to be thinking about a very clear what success looks like from day one, just so that it actually is aligned commercially to the vision and impact that you're trying to create. That also helps eliminate 70% of burnout, which unfortunately I had. So that's why I had to learn it the hard way, and hopefully I can help others learn it the easier way. I wish I would have been truer to myself. I think I had a lot of imposter syndrome in the first 2 companies, and I also ended up chasing money because it was the norm. So I think there's a lot more capacity now to take that time to think about what kind of business you're building and stay true to yourself about that. It doesn't matter what kind of businesses everyone else is building, but as long as it is the right motivation and what gets you up every morning, then that's the most important part. Otherwise, you will end up having burnouts, and you will end up building businesses that it might end up being someone else's dream, like your investor's dream, but not your dream, and you are going to suffer from. So that's the piece of advice I wished someone had given me early on.